Hey guys, welcome back to today's election prediction. We're going to be taking a look at Bernie Sanders versus Donald Trump 2020. Now, I want to preface this by saying I believe, based off the polling that we've seen and just his popularity in general, that if there's any candidate who can pull off a large win against Donald Trump, it's Bernie Sanders. And as we begin to fill in some of these states, you'll see why. So let's start from east to west. Not exactly concurrent with poll closing times, but pretty general. So let's go ahead and fill in the safe states for the Democrats. So as per usual, we've got most of the Northeast, including Maine at large and Maine's first congressional district. We'll get back to the second one later. But yeah, pretty much all along the northern East Coast, we've got those states. And then Illinois, Minnesota, and the West Coast as well. And DC. I forgot about that one. Yeah, and New Mexico's pretty safe. I mean, it's been a swing state in previous elections, but it's gotten a lot closer recently. So I think it's a pretty safe bet for the Democrats in 2020. Now, for the safe Republican states, the Republicans can count on states like South Carolina, and then all along in the Deep South, as well as into Appalachia. So we've got these states, and Indiana, I feel Bernie Sanders could definitely bring it pretty close. Again, he's got that white working class appeal, but just based off of how Republican and how partisan it is, I don't really see him being able to take that for the Democratic Party. So we got that, and then we've got states like Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Kansas is another state similar to Indiana where I think Bernie Sanders could do well in, but at the end of the day, Kansas is a Republican state. Now, Nebraska at large, as well as Nebraska's first and third districts, whereas Maine's second we'll get back to later. Then the usual suspects, Dakotas, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, and Alaska. And that's pretty much it for the ones that both parties can effectively bank on for 2020. Now, let's get into some states that'll probably be a little bit more likely. So for the Democrats, that would be states like New Hampshire. Again, Bernie Sanders has a lot of New England appeal up here. And Colorado. Colorado has a lot of progressive voters, and so I feel like Bernie can do pretty well here. Same with Nevada. Not quite as much as Colorado, but if Hillary was able to win it in 2016, then Bernie Sanders can definitely make an improvement on that. So that leaves the Democrats with 219 and Trump with 125. Now, there are a couple places where I believe Trump can do pretty well, such as in the state of Georgia. It's been considered a swing state in recent elections, but it's been going to the Republicans time after time after time. And someone like Bernie Sanders, don't get me wrong, I think the right Democrat can flip some of these southern states, but Bernie Sanders is not the candidate to do that. His appeal focuses on the white working class who exist in the Midwest and the Northeast, whereas someone maybe like Stacey Abrams, who's from Georgia, or Joe Biden, who tends to be more of a moderate, could do well here. So Georgia, I see being lean Trump, and then same with North Carolina. Again, Obama won that in 2008, but that's because his appeal focuses a lot on the moderate sector of the Democratic Party. And Florida. Florida is interesting because we have seen the new legislation roll out that allows registered felons to vote, but to be fair, the Republicans did very well here in 2018, and this is not a progressive Democratic state. It's a pretty centrist state. So I would give... Wow, that color red is so light you can barely see it. But yeah, Florida would be a tilt towards Donald Trump. Same with Texas. It would be a little bit... Perhaps, I think, a little bit closer than 2016 when Hillary won it by about 9 points, I believe. But at the end of the day, Texas is a Republican state, and it's probably going to stay that way for at least the next couple of elections. But I definitely can see it becoming a swing state in the future. And the story is also the same in Arizona. We did see the Democrats do very well here in 2018, taking the Senate and doing well in the House races. I think they flipped 2 or 3 seats. I'm not sure though. But yeah, they did well here. But Arizona and Florida are kind of similar in that they both have a lot of elderly, retired people. And so someone like Joe Biden could do well in these states, but Bernie Sanders definitely appeals more to the younger people. So that's why I don't see him carrying Arizona, although it would be closer than 2016, I believe. So yeah, now let's look at a couple places where Bernie can do pretty well at. Oops, not me to do that. Okay, so Bernie, I feel like, has a lot of appeal up in this portion of the country. So that would allow him to do well in states like, or in districts like Maine's second congressional district. I think would barely go to him. And the three critical states that are going to be all the rage and talked about in the 2020 election. Pennsylvania narrowly goes to Bernie. Michigan narrowly goes to Bernie. Actually, oops, there we go. And Wisconsin would be, I think, the narrowest of these three Rust Belt states to go to Bernie. But Bernie Sanders has a lot of appeal in the Midwest and Rust Belt. And Donald Trump knows this. So I think he could do very well up here. And then we get into the Nebraska's second congressional district. We actually saw a pretty interesting race here in 2018, with a very progressive candidate who almost won, but not quite. And obviously progressivism is pretty popular here, so I think Bernie would narrowly be able to take it, especially since Obama was able to get it, so it makes sense that Bernie could. And so at this point, I forgot to fill in Virginia. My bad. But yeah, I think Virginia would be pretty likely. Hillary was able to do all right. Bernie's probably going to do okay there as well. Yeah, so that puts the Democrats over the top at 280. However, I do think a candidate like Bernie Sanders could definitely do pretty well in Iowa. Now, oops. Sorry about that. Bernie Sanders, again, has a lot of appeal to Iowa voters. He did very well in the primaries there in 2016. Everyone was expecting, or most people were expecting, Hillary to be the shining star in that state. But Bernie Sanders essentially locked it up in a dead tie. So Iowa, I think, can narrowly go to Bernie. And Ohio. Ohio is, in the Bernie versus Trump scenario, I believe to be the closest state of them all. We did see it go for Obama both years, but in 2016, it swung hugely in favor of Trump. However, Democrats did do moderately well there in 2018. Sherrod Brown won re-election in the Senate by actually a wider margin than he did in 2012. So I suppose this means that Democrats would have maybe a 50-50 shot here. Although I would give a very, very slight edge to Bernie Sanders, especially with the recent campaign ad he just ran about a lot of the GM plants shutting down. These voters care about the economy, and Bernie can really emphasize the issue of the economy to the lower class. So yeah, that wraps up today's video. If you guys have any questions, comments, or suggestions, make sure to leave them down below in the comment section, and I will see you guys in the next one.